Ethan was used to strange things in space. He had worked on alien ships, fixed engines that ran on light, and walked through corridors where gravity changed with every step. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for this. The space station floated quietly above a blue gas giant, its silver rings shining in the distant light. Inside, Ethan was in the alien residential wing, kneeling beside an open panel, fixing a bundle of wires. It was quiet, except for the soft hum of the station. Then he felt its watch watching him. He turned his head, and there she was. A young alien woman stood just a few feet away. Her skin a pale silver blue that shimmered in the light. Her eyes bright like molten gold. Her hair floated slightly as if the air around her carried a soft current. She wore a long robe that draped over her smooth, legless lower body. Her species moved like gliding snakes. She was beautiful, yes. But there was something else. She was staring at him with a mix of curiosity and confusion. Ethan offered a polite nod. "Can I help you?" he asked. The alien tilted her head, studying him for a long moment. Then, without warning, she spoke in perfect translation. "Human. What's that between your legs?" Ethan froze, his hands still gripping the wires. His mind went blank. "Excuse me?" he managed, but she didn't laugh, didn't smirk, didn't sound insulting. She looked genuinely curious. A few aliens nearby stopped what they were doing. Some whispered, others chuckled. One alien with shimmering scales covered his mouth to hide a grin. Ethan could feel the heat rise to his face. How was he supposed to answer that? Zyra, that was her name, though he didn't know it, yet slid a little closer. Her golden eyes fixed on him. "I've seen you walking," she said softly. "I've seen the way your lower limbs move, and I don't understand. There is something in between. What is it for?" Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. His brain raced, trying to figure out if this was some sort of prank. But there was no mockery in her voice, just the raw, innocent curiosity of someone who had never seen a human body before. That's private, he said finally, hoping that would be enough. But Zyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Private," she repeated, tasting the word like it was strange. Her tone was calm, but her interest was not fading. "If it is part of you, why is it hidden? Why do you not speak of it?" Ethan could hear more whispers behind him. Someone even muttered, "The human is embarrassed." In their own language, he sighed, leaning back from the open panel. This was going to be a long day. He cleared his throat. "It's complicated," he said carefully. "Humans don't usually talk about." That Zyra blinked, her head tilting the other way now. "Then maybe humans are strange," she said, her voice calm, but her eyes bright with amusement. Ethan turned back to his work. If he ignored her, maybe she'd lose interest. But no. She stayed right there, watching every movement of his hands. "Does it help you walk?" she asked suddenly. "No," Ethan replied quickly. "Then what does it do?" she pressed, her voice still innocent. Ethan rubbed his face. This was impossible. One of the other aliens called out, "Careful, Zyra. You might break the human." With your questions, laughter followed. Zyra ignored them completely, her gaze never leaving Ethan. "You are the only human here," she said slowly, "and I wish to understand you." Ethan finally met her eyes. Something about the way she said it made him pause. It wasn't just casual curiosity. There was a deep, almost urgent need to know why. He asked before he could stop himself. "Because," she said softly, "I think what is between your legs might explain something my people have never understood about humans." Her words sent a strange shiver down his spine. This wasn't just a random question. This was the beginning of something. He didn't know what, but he could feel it. A small crowd had gathered now. Watching from a distance, Ethan stood slowly, his tools still in hand. Zyra slid back slightly, but didn't Her eyes were locked on him like she was studying a rare creature. "Maybe," she said with a small smile, "you could show me." One day, Ethan nearly dropped his tools. The crowd whispered louder. His heart pounded not because of the question itself, but because he suddenly realized this alien girl was not going to stop until she had her answer. The hum of the station filled the silence between them. Ethan forced a smile. "We'll talk later," he said. Zyra's smile widened just a little. "Yes, human," she replied, her voice low and certain. "We will." And in that moment, Ethan knew his quiet life on the station was over. Something had just started, something strange, embarrassing, and maybe dangerous, but deep inside. A small part of him was curious too. Very curious. Ethan tried to forget about this strange question. He told himself it was just a one-time thing. Aliens asked odd things all the time, but in the following days, he learned one important truth: Zyra was not the type to let something go. Wherever he went on the station, she seemed to appear. He was fixing a coolant pipe in the engine sector, she was there, floating silently at the corner watching. If he was grabbing lunch in the food hall, she would glide over and sit near him, her golden eyes studying him like he was a puzzle. Even when he worked in restricted maintenance areas, she somehow found a reason to pass by. It was almost unsettling at first. She didn't bring up her original question. She asked smaller things. Why do your hands have 5 tips? Why do your eyes close sometimes and open again? Why do you breathe so much? Ethan would answer, thinking maybe this was just general alien curiosity. But every time her gaze would slowly drift downward, as if her mind was circling back to the thing she really wanted to know. Word spread quickly among the station crew. They started calling her the human shadow. Some found it funny, others whispered rumors. One alien mechanic even teased Ethan during a repair job. "Careful, human, your admirer is watching," he said with a toothy grin. Ethan tried to laugh it off, but Zyra didn't react. She kept her focus on him, calm and unbothered by the teasing. One evening, as Ethan was returning to his quarters, he found her waiting at his door. Her silver blue skin caught the light from the corridor, making her seem almost glowing. "You avoid me," she said plainly. Ethan frowned. "I don't avoid you," he replied. "You do," she insisted. "Every time I start to ask about what's between your legs, you change the subject," Ethan felt. His face heat again. "It's not something we just talk about," he said carefully. "Why?" she asked, her tone genuinely confused. "Is it dangerous?" That question made him choke. "No, it's not dangerous," he said quickly. "It's just personal." Zyra blinked. "Personal means secret." "Not exactly," Ethan said, rubbing his forehead. "It's private. It's part of my body, but it's not for casual discussion." She looked thoughtful for a long moment. Then, in a tone that was almost gentle, she said, "My people do not hide what they are. Human, we show all parts. We do not fear questions." Ethan sighed. "Humans are different." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Different can mean better. Or worse. Then she turned and glided away without another word. Leaving him uneasy, the next day, things got stranger. Ethan was repairing a coolant valve in one of the upper decks when he noticed a small group of aliens gathering nearby. They were whispering, pointing at him. At the center of the group was Zyra, speaking quietly but clearly when they saw him looking. The group laughed and quickly dispersed. Ethan walked over. "What was that about?" he asked. "I was telling them," Zyra said calmly, "that I will find my answer." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Zyra, this is getting out of hand." "Not yet," she said. "But it will if you keep hiding from me." Later that night, while Ethan was trying to relax in his quarters, his door chimed. He opened it, and there she was again. This time, she was holding a small recording device. "I want to ask you questions," she said. "Proper questions." "For my research," Ethan hesitated. "Research?" "Yes," she said. "I am studying your species for my people. I have never met a human before. You are the only one here that makes you important." Ethan's suspicion grew. "And this research, does it have to include that question?" "Yes," she said simply. "It is part of understanding you. All creatures are shaped by their bodies. What is between your legs must mean something about how you live, how you think." He was silent for a moment. Then he noticed something in her expression. It wasn't just curiosity, there was urgency. Almost desperation. "Zyra," he asked slowly, "why do you need to know so badly?" She hesitated, her golden eyes glinting in the dim light. "Because my leaders asked me to find out," she said softly. "And because I think the answer could change how my people see humans forever." Her words hit him like a shock. This wasn't just personal curiosity, was political, maybe even dangerous. Ethan swallowed. "What happens if you tell them?" "That depends on what I learn," she replied. "It could make us allies, or make us keep our distance." Ethan leaned against the wall. Part of him wanted to refuse her entirely. Another part wanted to know why something so simple could matter so much. She stepped closer, her voice low, human. "You could just tell me now." But Ethan shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "Not until I understand why it matters." Zyra studied him for a long moment, then gave a small, almost knowing smile. "Very well," she said. "But I will find my answer, even if it takes every day I have with you." As she glided away into the dim corridor, Ethan realized one thing. This wasn't just a question anymore. This was a game. And in this game, Zyra would not stop until she won. Ethan didn't know if Zyra was stubborn or simply born curious. Either way, she was getting under his skin. Her questions never stopped. And even when she didn't mention the original one, he could feel it hiding behind every conversation. One afternoon, Ethan was assigned to inspect the water filters in the alien garden sector. The place was quiet, filled with strange glowing plants and soft pools of shimmering liquid. The alien crew who worked here rarely spoke to him, but when he arrived, Zyra was already waiting, her robe trailing in the light mist. "You came," she said, as if she had been expecting him. Ethan sighed. "I came to work, not to be part of another interview." Her golden eyes gleamed. "Work and questions can happen together." She followed him as he checked the filter panels. He tried to ignore her, but then she asked something unexpected. "Human, why do you wear coverings on your body?" Ethan glanced over his shoulder. "You mean clothes?" "Yes," she said. "You hide your form. We do not." Ethan looked around. It was true, most of the aliens here wore only light decorative wraps, or nothing at all from the waist up. Their species had no shame about their shapes. "Humans wear clothes for warmth, protection, and modesty," he explained. "Modesty," Zyra repeated, tasting the word like it was strange. "Yes," Ethan said. "It means we cover certain parts of our bodies because we think they are private." Zyra tilted her head. "Private again," she murmured. "Your people keep many things private." "That's not a bad thing," Ethan replied. "It's just how we are. Or maybe it means you are afraid," she said softly. Ethan frowned. "Afraid of what?" "Afraid of being known," she said, her voice calm but cutting. Her words stayed in his mind as he worked. When he finished and packed up his tools, Zyra was still there, waiting. "Why does what is between your legs need to be private?" she asked again. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. "Because it's personal, intimate." "Intimate means for someone special?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan admitted. "For humans, that part of the body is connected to closeness, trust, and creating new life." She blinked slowly. "So, it is a life giver." She said, "That is important, not shameful." Ethan hesitated. "It's not shameful. We just don't share it with everyone." Zyra's gaze softened. "I think I begin to understand, human, but your way is still strange to me." They walked together toward the main corridor. The station was busy now, aliens moving in every direction. Lights flashing, announcements echoing as they moved. Ethan noticed a group of uniformed aliens watching them. When they got closer, one stepped forward. It was Commander Varen, tall and sharp-eyed, his voice cold, human, Varen said. A word, Ethan glanced at Zyra, but she gave no sign of leaving. Varen looked at her. "This is not for you." "Zyra, it concerns me," she replied smoothly. "I will stay." The commander's jaw tightened, but he spoke anyway. "Human, I have heard of your conversations with our researcher here. I must remind you, sharing details of your species without permission is against station protocol." Ethan folded his arms. "I'm not giving away military secrets, Commander. Sometimes," Varen said slowly, "the smallest detail can cause the biggest conflict." Zyra stepped forward. "If we cannot understand each other, how can we trust each other?" His answers help us bridge the gap. Varen's eyes narrowed, and some gaps should remain. The tension between them was heavy. Ethan could tell this wasn't just about him. Varen clearly didn't like humans. When the commander finally walked away, Zyra turned to Ethan, her voice softer. "You see now," she said, "some of my people fear your kind. They think what you hide makes you dangerous." Ethan frowned. "Dangerous? Because of our anatomy?" "Not only that," she said, "because your privacy makes you unpredictable. We show everything, you hide. That frightens them." Ethan walked in silence for a while. This was more than curiosity. This was about culture, trust, and maybe even politics, Zyra continued. "If I can explain you to them, maybe they will not fear. Maybe they will see humans as partners, not threats." Ethan glanced at her. "And you think one answer will change that?" "It is not just one answer," she said. "It is the start of all answers." That night, Ethan sat in his quarters, thinking he had joined the station crew for work, not diplomacy. But now it felt like he was in the middle of something important, maybe even dangerous. And it had all started with one strange, embarrassing question. Before he could rest, his door chimed. It was Zyra again, holding a small tray of glowing fruit. "For you," she said, "in my culture, sharing food is sharing trust." Ethan took one cautiously. As he tasted it, sweet, cool, and slightly spicy, she smiled. "See, human, some things are better when shared." Ethan couldn't help but smile back, but deep inside, he knew she wasn't talking about the fruit, okay? And he knew this conversation was far from over. Ethan thought he had seen the worst of Zyra's curiosity. He was wrong. The next morning, a message appeared on his personal console. It was short. "Direct, and from Zyra, come to my quarters. I've arranged an inspection." He frowned at the screen. Inspection? Of what? Part of him wanted to ignore it, but another part knew that if he didn't show up, she would just find him somewhere else. And the last thing he needed was her asking personal questions in front of an audience again. So, after his maintenance shift, he made his way to her section of the station. Zyra's quarters were larger than his, brightly lit, filled with silver fabrics and floating lanterns. Strange hanging crystals gave off a soft hum, and the air smelled faintly of something sweet and sharp. She was waiting in the center of the room. A small table beside her, holding a set of scanning devices and what looked like a recorder. "You came," she said with a calm smile. "I wasn't sure I had a choice." Ethan muttered, stepping inside. "You always have a choice." "Human," she replied. "But today, I hope you choose truth." He crossed his arms. "What exactly?" "Is this inspection?" Zyra gestured to the table. "My research requires a detailed record of your body structure, The more I understand, the better I can explain humans to my leaders. Ethan raised an eyebrow. This isn't going to turn into some invasive medical exam, is it? Her golden eyes sparkled. Not unless you wish it to, she said, her tone unreadable. She moved to the table and picked up a small device that emitted a soft blue light. This will scan your shape through your clothing, she explained. It will not harm you. It only records surface structure and movement. Ethan hesitated. And you need to do this. Why? Because, Zyra said, stepping closer. Words are not enough for my leaders. They must see you, not just hear about you. She began slowly circling him, the blue light sweeping over his body. Her gaze was sharp and calculating, yet there was still that undercurrent of personal interest. He could feel his shoulders tense. This feels strange, he admitted. Strange is what I study, she said simply. When she reached his lower body, the scanner paused. Her eyes flicked up to meet his, and for a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then she asked quietly, "This is where the difference is greatest, isn't it?" Ethan's throat went dry. "I'm not sure what you mean," he said. "I think you do," she replied softly. "This is the place that your people hide the most and guard the most. It must be important." Ethan exhaled slowly. "It is important," he said. "It's part of how humans create life and also part of how we connect with someone we trust." Her expression shifted, curiosity deepening into something almost thoughtful. "Then you would only share it with someone chosen?" she asked. Ethan said, "Only someone special." Zyra tilted her head as if filing that away in her mind. The inspection continued. But Ethan could feel the air between them growing heavier when she finished. She placed the scanner back on the table and picked up the recorder. "I will keep these records safe," she said. "They will only be shown to those who decide if humans can be part of our alliance." Ethan frowned. "You mean this isn't just your personal curiosity?" Zyra shook her head slowly. "It never was. My leaders believe that to trust humans, we must understand you completely. If we cannot understand something as basic as your form, how can we trust your mind?" Her words made him realize the weight of this whole situation. It wasn't just about awkward questions It was about the fate of human-alien relations. If he refused her research, it could damage the chances of humans joining the alliance. If he allowed it, he risked sharing something his people considered deeply private. "I'm not sure I like being the example for my entire species," he said quietly. Zyra stepped closer, her voice gentle. "You may not like it, human, but you are already the example. Every alien on this station sees you, watches you, judges what humans are like based on your actions." He met her golden gaze. "You think one human can change your leaders' minds?" he asked. "I think one human already has," she replied without hesitation. There was a long pause between them. Finally, Zyra's voice softened even more. "You have been patient with me. You have not turned me away even when I pushed. That is rare. My people will see this." Ethan didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. As he turned to leave, she added one last thing. "Human, if I am to present you to my leaders, I must also understand your heart, not just your body." He looked back at her. "My heart." "Yes," she said, her voice almost a whisper, "because the part between your legs may explain life, but the part in your chest explains why you live it." Ethan left her quarters with his thoughts tangled. He had come expecting an awkward scan instead. He left wondering if this alien girl had just gotten closer to understanding him than most humans ever had. Ethan had barely left Zyra's quarters before whispers began to follow him down the corridor. He noticed glances from passing crew members. Some curious, some amused, and others clearly judging. It didn't take long before the truth hit him. Whatever Zyra's inspection looked like to anyone outside the room, It had been twisted into something completely different by the time he reached the engineering bay. Two alien mechanics were grinning like they knew a secret, busy morning human. One asked, his tone playful. Ethan frowned. What's that supposed to mean? The other mechanic leaned closer. Lowering his voice, they say Zyra claimed. You as her. Chosen. Ethan blinked. Her what? Her mate, the mechanic said. Clearly enjoying the reaction, Ethan's mouth fell open. That's ridiculous. She was just inspecting you. The first mechanic interrupted. With a smirk. Yes, we heard. A very private inspection. Ethan groaned and turned away. This was exactly what he didn't need. The more he denied it, the more people would think it was true, and Zyra. He wasn't even sure if she'd bother correcting them. Later that day, while eating alone in the food hall, he saw Zyra approaching from across the room. Every alien nearby noticed her too. Some leaned in to whisper. Others simply stared. She reached his table without hesitation and sat down beside him, her golden eyes calm. You have been avoiding me, she said. Ethan set down his drink. Maybe because half the station thinks we're involved. Her head tilted slightly. Are we not? Ethan nearly choked. No, we are not. Where did you even get that idea? Zyra glanced around the room, as if the answer was obvious. Your species shares closeness with those they trust. I trust you. You have shared your knowledge with me. You allowed my inspection, in my culture. That means a bond. Ethan's eyes widened. Zyra. In human culture, that's not how it works. She studied him for a long moment. Then your culture is strange, she said simply. If such an act is not a sign of trust, what is it? Ethan sighed. It is trust, but it doesn't mean. Where, you know? Mates, her expression didn't change. To me, it does, she said. And now others know. Ethan leaned forward. Lowering his voice, Zyra, this rumor could get me in serious trouble. Some people already don't like humans on this station. Let them not like you. She replied calmly. It changes nothing. Before he could argue, Commander Varen entered the hall. The commander's sharp gaze scanned the room until it landed on Ethan and Zyra. He approached with slow, deliberate steps, his presence making the nearby tables go silent. Human, Varen said coldly. A word now, Ethan stood reluctantly and followed the commander out into the corridor. Once they were alone, Varen's voice turned even sharper. Do you have any idea what you've done? Ethan frowned. If you're talking about the rumors, I am talking about the fact that a respected researcher has declared you her mate, Varen snapped. Do you know what that means in her culture? It is a public claim, a political statement. You are now tied to her reputation. And by extension, to the council's trust in her. Ethan felt his stomach sink. I didn't agree to that, he said. Varen's eyes narrowed. Intent does not matter. The declaration has been made, and the council will expect you to act accordingly. Ethan rubbed his temples. What does that even mean for me? It means, Varen said coldly, you will be summoned before the council to explain yourself. If you embarrass her or us, you may find yourself escorted off this station permanently. When Varen left, Ethan leaned against the wall. His quiet engineering job had somehow turned into a diplomatic nightmare. All because of one question and one inspection. That evening, Zyra appeared at his quarters again. She didn't look guilty, in fact. She looked almost pleased. You? Spoke with Varone, she said. Yes, Ethan replied flatly. He told me I'm now part of some political situation because of you. She tilted her head. Because of us. There is no us, Zyra, Ethan said firmly. Her eyes softened, not to you, perhaps. But to my people, there is. Ethan stepped closer, his voice low. Do you realize what you've done? This could ruin any chance humans have of joining your alliance. She met his gaze without flinching. Or, she said softly, it could make them see that humans are worth trusting, worth claiming, worth keeping close. He stared at her, unsure whether she was being incredibly naive or incredibly clever. Either way, the damage or the opportunity was already done, and the next step was no longer in his control. The station's intercom crackled to life. Ethan Cross, report. To the council chamber immediately. Zyra's golden eyes never left his as she said, it begins. The council chamber was nothing like Ethan had imagined. It was vast, shaped like a circle, with high silver walls that reflected the light of glowing panels above the floor. Sloped gently toward the center, where a raised platform stood meant for those being questioned. Around him, rows of alien council members sat in tiered seats. Their eyes sharp, their expressions unreadable. Ethan stepped forward under the watchful gaze of two guards. Zyra was already there, standing to the side. Her golden eyes steady, Commander Varen stood near the front, his arms crossed, clearly. Prepared to speak against him, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. Human Ethan Cross. You have been summoned to explain the events surrounding your association with researcher Zyra of the First Serpent Line. The speaker was an elder alien with skin like polished stone, his voice heavy with authority. Ethan tried to keep his tone calm. I didn't do anything wrong, he said. There's been a misunderstanding. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Varen stepped forward, his voice cold. The misunderstanding is that you believe your actions are without consequence. Human, you allowed a private inspection with a respected researcher, and by our laws, this is considered an act of claiming. Ethan turned to the council. That wasn't my intention. In human culture, it doesn't mean that the elder alien's eyes narrowed slightly. And yet, intention is not the only factor. Perception is powerful, and perception shapes alliances. Zyra stepped forward before Ethan could answer. Her voice rang clearly through the chamber. If there is fault, it is mine, she said. I claimed him. Not because of some accident, but because I saw in him qualities our people need: patience, openness, and the ability to bridge the gap between species. The room fell silent. Varen's expression tightened. Researcher, he said sharply. You are speaking as though this human is some kind of representative for his entire species. Zyra's eyes flashed. He is, whether he asked for it or not. He is the only human on this station. Every alien here will judge his kind based on his behavior. The elder leaned forward. Human Ethan, is this true? Do you accept the weight of representing your people here? Ethan hesitated, feeling the weight of every eye in the chamber on him. I didn't come here to be a diplomat, he said honestly. I came to work. But if what I do here is going to decide how your people see mine, then, yes, I'll take responsibility. A murmur moved through the council. The elder raised a hand for silence. Then we must test this claim, he said. Researcher Zyra has presented you as an example of human trustworthiness. Commander Varen has presented you as a potential cultural threat, which is true. That is what we will decide today. The questioning began. They asked Ethan about human customs, human values, and human emotions. Some questions were simple about food, work, and art. Others cut deeper. Why do humans hide parts of themselves? How can we trust a species that conceals what it is? Ethan answered as honestly as he could, explaining privacy, choice, and the idea that trust must be earned, not forced. At one point, a council member asked the question directly. What is between your legs, human? A ripple of laughter and shock went through the chamber. Ethan kept his composure. It is part of our reproductive system, part of how humans create life. It's private, not because it's shameful, but because it's something we only share with those we trust completely. Zyra stepped forward again, her voice strong. And he trusted me enough to let me ask. Even though the question embarrassed him, he could have turned me away, but he did not. That is why I believe humans can be allies. Varen's voice cut in like a blade. Or perhaps he is simply reckless. Willing to share too much without thinking of the consequences, Ethan met the commander's glare. Trust is always a risk. He said, if no one takes it, nothing changes. That made the elder pause. Slowly, he nodded. This is a truth, he said, one worth remembering. The council withdrew to deliberate, leaving Ethan and Zyra standing together in the silent chamber. He glanced at her. You didn't have to defend me like that, he said quietly. Yes, I did, she replied. Because if you fall, so does the chance for our people to understand each other. Minutes later, the council returned. The elder's voice filled the chamber again. We have reached a decision, he said. The human will remain on this station, and his interactions with researcher Zyra will continue. His actions will be watched, but for now, we see value in the bond that has formed. Relief washed. Over Ethan, Zyra's golden eyes softened. I told you, she whispered. This is only the beginning. Asterisk, the days after the trial felt different for Ethan. Every corridor he walked now carried more eyes. Some aliens regarded him with suspicion, but many now looked at him with curiosity, even respect. It was strange 1 week ago. He was just the human engineer fixing broken systems. Now, he was the human who stood before the council and spoke for his species. Zyra remained close, but not in the same quiet, watchful way as before. She walked beside him openly, speaking to others about the trial, about his answers, and about the trust he had shown. Word of their defense before the council spread fast. And slowly, the tone of the whispers began to change. One afternoon, Ethan was called to the council chamber again. This time, the atmosphere was not tense. The elder who had presided over the trial spoke warmly. Human Ethan Cross, he said. Your actions have caused much discussion among our people. You have shown patience, openness, and a willingness to explain what others would hide. These qualities are rare. They are valuable. Ethan listened as the elder continued. The council has decided to open formal talks with the human delegation on your homeworld. You have been named as our station's first bridge representative between our species. Ethan blinked. Ah. Bridge representative. It means, the elder explained, you will help guide how our peoples meet, speak, and understand each other. You will be the example. Zyra's golden eyes lit with something almost proud. She stepped forward. And I will remain as his counterpart, she said, together. We will show our people that trust is possible. The chamber echoed with murmurs of agreement. Ethan felt a mix of pride and pressure. It was a heavy role, but after everything, he realized he wanted to see it through. Over the next weeks, Zyra and Ethan began working on a cultural exchange program. They arranged sessions where humans could explain their customs and learn alien ones in return. It wasn't always easy. Some topics sparked heated debate. Others caused laughter. But every time, they came back to the same idea. Curiosity should not be feared. One day, during a meeting with a group of alien students, one asked the same question Zyra had asked that first day, human. What's between your legs? The room went silent for a heartbeat. Then Ethan smiled. It's a part of me that helps create life, he said calmly. And it's private because it's something I only share with someone I trust completely. The students nodded, and a few even smiled. It felt different now. Embarrassment. Understanding. Later, in the quiet of the station's observation deck, Ethan and Zyra stood side by side, looking out at the swirling blue gas giant below. You've changed, she said softly. How so? Ethan asked. You no longer flinch when asked about what you guard, she replied. You speak with confidence. You explain instead of hide. Ethan chuckled. Maybe I've just gotten used to the questions. Or maybe, she said, her gaze steady, you've accepted that trust requires giving a part of yourself. He glanced at her. You've changed too, he said. Her golden eyes softened. Perhaps. I no longer see privacy as weakness. I see it as something precious, something that makes the sharing more meaningful. A chime sounded from the cum panel above them. The council's seal appeared, followed by the elder's voice. Ethan Cross, Zyra of the First Serpent Line, the first human-alien cultural treaty will be signed tomorrow. You will both stand as witnesses. Zyra's tail coiled slightly in a gesture of pride. This is what I wanted, she said. Not just my answer, but the beginning of something larger. Ethan smiled, and to think. It all started with one very awkward question. They stood in silence for a moment. The hum of the station all around them. Then Zyra spoke again, her voice low and teasing. Human. Yeah. Ethan said. I still have more questions, she said, her golden eyes gleaming. Ethan laughed softly. Somehow, I knew you'd say that. The next day, the council hall was filled with dignitaries, translators, and curious observers from both species. The treaty was read aloud, promising cooperation, knowledge sharing, and mutual defense. When it was signed, the room erupted in a wave of voices for the first time. Humans and Zyra's people stood side by side, not as strangers, but as partners. Ethan caught Zyra's gaze across the table. There was pride there, but also something personal. Something just between them. She leaned closer and whispered, You were the right choice, human. As the celebrations began, Ethan realized he had stepped into history not because he was the smartest or the strongest, but because he had been willing to answer. And sometimes that was enough to change the future.